Good morning.
Jady, good morning. Glad we were able to get this together.
Good to see you, Doug, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, my friend.
2026, man. Can you believe it?
No, the time continues to move faster and faster the older we get.
What do they say? The days are long and the years are short.
Yep.
A lot of truth to that.
Yeah, and I realize as I get older, I get more reflective and more nostalgic with each year. And I didn't notice it until recently. And I've been working on this project as well as doing some storytelling for my kids and grandkids to explain to them everything.
What Poppy did.
What I did, what their grandparents did and their great-grandparents. They've heard stories, but they'll never meet their great-grandparents. And
There's a lot of products out there right now that you can kind of tell your life story. And you were telling me earlier that you're doing some writing right now, so maybe you're better at writing. Some people aren't good at getting. You need a little nudge, like the question has to be asked if you to answer the question. And so there's some products out there where you can get these books, fill out all these answers, and then they send it off, and it comes back in a book form that you can share with all your relatives.
I love that process because I've been using a lot of AI tools.
Yeah.
And I'll get a thought process down, and I'll have it ask me one question at a time, and it'll turn into something beautiful that would have taken me weeks to write.
Right.
But it speeds up the process. It's still my words, my thoughts, my answers to my question, but it really helps me a lot.
You're getting cued by the AI.
Yeah.
How about that? That's something else we could talk about, huh? AI?
Beautiful.
Are you kidding me? Unbelievable.
I had Scott Laverne with EDC, which is our managed service IT provider, yesterday, and he was talking about the next evolution in AI is these AI agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all about that. I know about that.
The agent sits above everything and coordinates other AIs that work for them and does a whole process.
Yeah, I went to a big convention of sorts, trade show in Austin, Texas last year, and they talked about how everyone will have an agent, and your agent will talk to my agent. So now when we start doing queries online, we got to make sure that our agents are looking for your agents and vice versa, so that there can be a connection made. It's wild out there. Things are moving very, very quickly.
I think we went right past the Jetsons with the exception of the flying cars, and I think that's coming.
It's coming. For sure.
Well, Jady, you have a wonderful background, and although we want to talk about leadership, let's start off by talking about where you came from, how you got to where you are, short chronology of...
Yeah. Well, I'm a native of New Iberia. And
sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to change it again, but I'm trying to single-handedly change people from saying the berry.
That's right.
It's I find it, I'm tongue-in-cheek here, I find it to be a derogatory term. And the only people that use it are people that are outside of New Iberia.
Right.
So I had a friend of mine the other day.
It's even on a billboard, isn't it?
Oh, it's terrible. I need to send that guy a letter. The Honda dealership on Highway 90.
Right.
He says, "Welcome to the berry," and I'm like, man, you're killing me. I guarantee you that guy's not from New Iberia. I grew up in New Iberia. My mom still lives in the same childhood home that I grew up in, which is kind of amazing, 56 years, which is great. So whenever I go see my mother, I feel like I'm really going home. I love that. And I left when I went to college. I finished a Catholic high school in New Iberia. I was one part of the last all-boy class at Catholic High. It's a co-ed school now. And went to Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama. Stayed there for 2 years. I loved it. Had a great time. Very small liberal arts school, Jesuit school. But I wanted a bigger college environment, so I transferred to LSU, and I was glad I did. And lucky enough, I got a job there working for Dale Brown, who was then the legendary basketball coach. I think he was at LSU for almost 30 years. And the year that I got there was the first year that Shaquille O'Neal was on campus. And, probably today Shaquille would have never played college basketball. He probably would have gone straight to the pros because he was so talented. But back then he was in college, and not only was he in college, he went for 3 years, which would have also been unheard of because a lot of kids are doing the one and done thing. But he stayed for 3 years. And so he was at LSU all 3 years that I was there. And LSU had a big high profile team. We had national championship ambition all 3 of those years. It was kind of a crazy time to be involved with LSU basketball. And I was really intrigued with all the behind the scenes maneuvering that I saw at LSU basketball. I loved it. We were getting a lot of national attention because Shaquille was a star from the minute he got to campus. He didn't evolve into a star. He was a star. And so there was a lot of media attention. And I kind of liked this business of sports. So finished up at LSU, and then I went to Breckenridge, Colorado, where I became a ski instructor for 2 years. And it was kind of my 2 years, I guess today they call that a gap year. I think that's the term. But I had so much fun, I did it twice. And let me tell you, I'm really encouraging my children who are college age right now to really consider doing the same thing I did. I thought it was some of the best time of my life. You never get that youth back when your body's in shape. You don't have children. You don't have really a lot of outside responsibilities. I think there's always going to be time to be serious. And when you're young, you just don't ever get those years back. And so Breckenridge was formative for me. I worked as a bartender 6 nights a week, and I taught skiing 5 days a week. So it wasn't like we were out there goofing off. I mean, I worked a lot, but I enjoyed it very, very much. And then after that, I decided to go back to graduate school, and I went to Texas A&M. I got a master's in educational psychology. My undergraduate was in psychology, and I was on my PhD. I was going to go back and get my PhD, and I heard a hockey team was coming to Lafayette, Louisiana. I was living in Texas at the time. I was dating a woman from San Antonio, and she was telling me about a hockey team that had come to San Antonio, and it was all the rage. And I was like, hockey in the South doesn't really make sense. No one really knows much about it. I didn't know much about it. But I was so drawn to sports from my experience at LSU that I thought, man, it might be kind of cool if I go and check and see what this is all about. Turns out that the owners were from Lafayette, and they were putting a staff together. And I applied, and I got the public relations job. And I'd never been to a hockey game in my life. And I was now in charge of going all over Acadiana talking about hockey. So I was talking to newspapers, talking to magazines, talking to radio shows, television reporters, anybody who we could get in front of to talk about hockey. Now, this is back in 1995. In fact, the last time I was in this building that we're sitting in right now was 1995 because one of the 3 owners had an office at the top, Ernie Parker.
Oh, wow.
I had an office in this building. So when you told me where we were meeting today, I was like, wow, I hadn't been in that building in 30 years. So I got in the hockey business, and we had a really successful team, and Acadiana really supported us. It was an odd time in South Louisiana sports. LSU was not doing very well. UL was not doing very well. The Saints were not doing very well. The oil economy was doing very well. And there was just a lot of disposable income. And people were like, hey, what's this hockey thing? Let's try it out. And so they came to the Cajun Dome. They liked the product, and it was a huge success. If I have my stats right, and I think I do, Cajun Dome was finished in 1985, and they had only sold out one time for a sporting event in the first 10 years the building had been built. And we sold out, I think, the first year, like 40-something games. So we're talking about like almost 12,000 people. It was incredible. And if you lived in Lafayette during that time and you were going out, chances are you were going to ice hockey games because everybody was at the hockey games. I mean, even the restaurants were complaining that people weren't going out to eat on game nights because everybody was at the Cajun Dome. It was insane. And so we had a lot of fun. I did that for a couple of years, and then I got hired by a Mississippi hockey team in Biloxi. They were doing a new startup team, so they were kind of picking people from different franchises in the South. And it was an opportunity for me to move up, so I left and I went there. And then there was an ownership change back in Lafayette, so they asked me to come back as general manager. And I was 27 years old. I could hardly say no to that. So I came back, probably my first time that I had been thrusted into a leadership position at a very young age. And it was a very odd leadership position because everybody that was there had been there when I left. And now I came back as their boss. And that was a very strange thing. And no one really gave me any advice on what to do, what not to do, who to keep, who not to keep. So I learned some lessons there. We can talk about that a little bit. And then I stayed in hockey for another 4 years, and I had an opportunity to go work in the National Football League. I had interviewed with the Saints, and I had interviewed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then I interviewed with the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears offered me an opportunity. So I had to go. I mean, the Chicago Bears is one of the original teams of the National Football League. You know, NFL football is the pinnacle of the sports world in America. I mean,
the Bears,
right? And it's just an historic franchise. And, I grew up in the 80s. The Bears were great in the 80s. They won their championship in 85. They haven't been so good since, but it was an exciting town, big city. It was awesome. Their facility was amazing. I remember when I went up for my interview, I was blown away. And they offered me the job. I took it. And I stayed there only a couple of years, though. My father had passed away. My family was in the pecan business. And my mother said, hey, look, if you want to come back to Louisiana and run this company, your dad left me in good shape. And I said, you know what? That sounds pretty appealing. She didn't ever think I'd leave sports or Chicago to do something like that. But I had had my fill by then, 12 years of sports marketing, which I enjoyed tremendously. And I thought coming home and working for myself would be amazing. And it has been amazing. I tell you, working for yourself is such a wonderful thing to do if you've gotten that opportunity. Not everyone's cut out for that. Not a lot of people want to be in charge, so to speak, right? Hold the bag. But I've enjoyed it tremendously. And I'm a pretty creative guy, and I rely on my creativity more than anything. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to be very creative in this business because, it's pecans. But it's been completely the opposite. I've been extraordinarily creative in how we've decided to sell and market and position ourselves as a company. And as a result, we're probably one of the more successful pecan companies in the world. So it's been great, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Here I am.
It's very impressive the way your team works. Everybody seems to be aligned. The products you'll have are always new and always innovative. Lots of different selections. Our customers really enjoy receiving those products. When we send them, they look forward to them. And that's very interesting chronology there. The path is not always straight.
The path is never straight. They get that. Of course, we're doing, if I had a whiteboard in front of me, I'd show you, they always have that picture of success. And everybody thinks it's just a line that goes from the bottom to the top. It's a straight line. It's
Certainly
hardly
not
a straight line. It's all crooked, goes down for a little while, goes back up, goes sideways. That's how life is, and you only get to know that, unfortunately, when you get to our age and you've been through a few things, whether you've been through an economy crash or you've been through some calamity. We've been through some calamities the last 10, 20 years. And I talk about that all the time. Like, every time we think we have another calamity behind us, like, okay, well, we've been through an oil field crash and we've been through a housing crash and, we've been through BP oil spill and we've been through hurricane after hurricane after hurricane. Now we've been through COVID and a pandemic. What else is there? Well, there's something else coming,
Right.
I promise you, and we don't know what it is yet. Right now, it's tariffs. A lot of companies are really struggling with the tariff situation, and it's going to be interesting how the next couple of years go. I think everyone kind of absorbed it this year, but I think you're going to start seeing some inflation again because how can you not? I mean, we got hit with some tariffs. We have some products that are made overseas, and the problem for us is we cannot get the products that we need domestically. No one sells what we need domestically. I'm forced to go get it overseas.
It's been a problem for a long time.
It has been. So, I understand what the president is trying to do. I get it. I don't disagree with it. But we've turned ourselves into a consumer economy. And that's taken, decades to do that.
It's going to take a minute to put it back.
Correct. Yeah. So.
Well, one of the things you hit on is one of the things I noticed about you when I first met you. You're certainly a visionary and a creative. When you're in business, quite often the wants of a visionary creative are 180 degrees from an operational parameter thing. So how do you manage the yin and yang of the seesaw of Jady, the creative, what if we do this? What if we do this? With operational constraints in a business? Because that's the reality that I live every day. I have a kind of a visionary creative mindset, but I'm forced in my role to put bumpers on certain things financially and limits. So how do you manage those two sides of your brain?
Well, it's not easy. And sometimes the operational side of your brain wins and sometimes the creative wins. Sometimes the creative wants to take a swing for the fence and the operational voice in your head is saying, man, you sure you want to do that? You try to rely on your gut. I have made not many mistakes on the creative side, but there's some things that maybe don't do as well. I've been really fortunate because we've developed some things at Cane River, whether it's a strategy or whether it's a product. that has done really well. We have one product that's kind of our beast product. It just, it's like the 80-20 rule. It's probably 80% of our revenue. But we're always trying to stay fresh. In my business, I run a pecan company that it's a direct-to-consumer company. We don't do any wholesale. We used to do wholesale. We don't do that anymore. So we deal directly with the people that are going to consume and use our product. And we have decided that we are going to be more of a corporate gifting company rather than just a generic consumer-driven company. Now, we sell to both constituents, but our business-to-business gifting, like when we go to oil field companies and commercial banks and financial advisors and law firms, insurance companies, all these type of white-collar companies that need 200, 400, 600 gifts at the holidays, that's where we really want to be positioned. But we also sell to Susie and Mary and Tom, 2 of these and 3 of those throughout the year. So we really have 2 constituencies, and we have to speak to both of them. But the majority of our business is corporate gifting. And just in that, none of my contemporaries in the pecan business do that. So just that alone is kind of creative. Like we've decided to take this path, right? Mm-hmm. And probably a lot of that had to do with the fact that when I came out of Chicago, I saw big industry and big business. And I'll never forget when I was at the Bears, we had a cookie company from Nashville, Tennessee come and talk to us about they wanted to do some Chicago Bear branded tins to send out to our sponsors and stuff. And I think that's what planted a seed for me that later on I thought, well, if this little Nashville cookie company can go talk to the big boys in the cities like Chicago and Philadelphia and New York, well, I mean, we can do that for New Iberia, no problem. Now, we haven't spent time in those cities, but we're working the Gulf South hard. We're in Austin and San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, New Orleans, Little Rock, and some other mid-tier cities along the Gulf Coast. And we're excited about the opportunities that lay ahead of us because at the end of the day, we still are a very, very small company by every measure. So there's a lot of opportunities for us. But there's none of my colleagues in the pecan business are pursuing this corporate B2B gifting business like we are. So that in itself is pretty creative, which we like a lot.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We often talk about leadership in these sessions. And one of the most interesting things is mentorship. Mm-hmm. So during your career, tell me a story about someone that affected your growth, maybe gave you a pat on the back, kicking ass when you needed it or something like that. Who do you consider your mentors and why?
I didn't really have a lot of business mentors, to be honest with you. When I got thrusted into the job as general manager of the hockey team in 1995, I was really thrown out there. My owners were older. There wasn't anybody coming in and kind of putting me under their wing to give me a lot of direction. I had to kind of make decisions and I had to kind of figure out what was going to work and what wasn't going to work on my own. Looking back on it, it would have been awesome to have somebody. But I just don't think anybody knew what to do because hockey was so new. Even though I took over the team 2.5 years after they started, it was still such a new concept, hockey in South Louisiana. Ultimately, it led to the failure of hockey was because it just didn't have a root system. I don't know where you grew up, but I don't remember even learning the rules of football. We just know football.
It's ubiquitous. You just play
turn
football.
it on. You know that's a penalty. That's holding. That's
right.
Face masking. You know the rules. You don't remember being taught the rules. You just know the rules. Well, hockey was this whole new paradigm. Everyone had to learn all these different terms and what's going on, and it was kind of a crazy time. But when I got thrown into that job, I knew I was smart enough to know I want the job. Didn't really know what to do about the job. Learned it on. That old phrase, they're building the plane while they're flying it. I kind of felt like that from a leadership point of view. And then when I went to the Bears, it was kind of the same thing. I just kind of got thrown in there. There wasn't anybody that was real nurturing, so to speak. It was kind of cutthroat. So I think for me, my mentorship was really my competitive spirit if you will. Like I've always been competitive, and I wanted to be good at everything I did. And I really want to be the best pecan salesperson in America. I want to sell more pecans than anybody, kind of a thing. That's how I feel. And when I feel like I walk into a room full of executives, I'm usually the only person that does what I do, which is kind of interesting. Down here in South Louisiana, it's not uncommon to be in a room full of bankers or lawyers or oil and gas guys or insurance folks, and there's never another pecan guy in the room. So I feel like I have an immediate advantage, but I'm competitive. And I think because like in the pecan business, I came to run our pecan company, but my dad was actually the pecan farmer. But I came because he passed away, so I never even had a chance to work with him in this business, which would have been kind of cool. But I also think sometimes, Doug, if he had been here, because he was a lot more conservative than I was, I wonder if we would be where we were, because he'd be holding me back or maybe thinking that's not a good idea, let's not do that, let's not try this. Because I think one of the biggest things that I did when I first came to the pecan company was I wanted to we had no branding. So we spent a lot of money with the local ad agency branding. And it was a big deal, and we created this tin, this pecan tin, where we sell the pecans in, and we did this red tin. And I remember telling the ad agency then, I said, "Look, this is how I want the tin to look. Nobody in the pecan industry is making a rectangle tin with a hinged lid. I know that sounds like small stuff, but when you try to market something, all these things are part of the foundation of what the brand you're building." And I said, I need this tin to be red, because red was at Christmas and we do a lot of Christmas gifting, and I need this to look good at Christmas. And I said, I need this box to be my Tiffany box. And sure enough, 22, 23, 24 years later, I now have people coming up to me saying, yeah, Cane River, y'all are the guys in the red tin. I said, that's us. Right. We're in the red tin. And people will tell me, I went to a Christmas party at my friend's house, or somebody had an office party, and I saw those pecans in the break room, or saw those pecans put out on the table. And they recognize it now. Now the tin has become part of our branding, and it's taken this long, but we're here. And so I don't know if I would have gotten encouraged to take that chance 24 years ago to spend all the money we did to create this tin, because it was a proprietary tin, and we had to find a company in China to do it. And it was kind of a big deal at the time. We've since then done several custom tins. We're working on one right now, which we're really excited about. We're doing an American flag tin that's going to tell the story of the pecan being uniquely American for our semi-quincentennial that we're celebrating right now, which is America's 250th year, which will all culminate in July the 4th. You'll start seeing things pop up around the country, Boston, Philly. As we get closer to July 4th, you'll hear more about it.
That'll help with your national footprint too.
Oh, yeah. Well, not to segue too much here, but it's kind of interesting. I worked with legislators about 3 years ago to make the pecan the official state nut of Louisiana. And we were able to do that unanimously. It was really cool. Went down to Baton Rouge, testified, talked about the pecan, the significance of the pecan to Louisiana. And not only that, Louisiana's role in the development of the pecan nationally. Louisiana played a critical role in about 3 key areas for that. And we had it done. It was a lot of fun. Governor signed it into law. He used a pen that I gave him that was made out of pecan wood from a pecan tree at George Washington's home in Mount Vernon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very cool story. And a very famous pecan tree. It was there for 140 years until they cut it down because they were afraid it might fall down. It was so close to the house that every major painting, illustration, photograph of Mount Vernon, that pecan tree, is in all photos because it was so close to the home. And when they decided to take the tree down, they made a bunch of products out of it. And they made these fountain pens. And I bought one. And so John Bell Edwards signed it into law, and I've got the pen. And now I'm starting a grassroots campaign to make the pecan our official national nut. And I'm hopeful that this thing will go where it needs to go. Oh, it'll take years, I'm sure. And maybe the president, whoever the president is at the time, will sign that into law using that same pen. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. What is the
process?
The opposing nut? Like who's number 2?
Yeah, there's. This is interesting. The pecan
seems like the cashew would have something to say.
Well,
about
no,
that.
they're not. It's not American.
It's not.
The pecan is the only major tree nut that is indigenous to the United States. The black walnut is close, but it's not a crop. So it leaves the pecan kind of like it's the only indigenous tree nut. So it's pistachios and cashews and peanuts, all these other nuts that we love and we consume, they're not indigenous to America. They're either from Europe or Asia.
That's interesting.
So really, the pecan is America's nut. It's just not official. But we have official symbols. We have an official mammal. It's the bison. We have an official symbol. It's the flag. We have a national tree, which is the oak tree. We have a national flower, which is the rose. So that's not unprecedented, having a national symbol. I just think it's time to have a national nut. And I know it sounds kind of funny, but if you're in the pecan business and you're trying to get pecans to different parts of global markets, export markets, which we do, it's nice to be able to stamp that with that's America's nut, you know? And so the pecan industry isn't huge. I mean, we only do about 350 million pounds a year here in America. But I think it'd be kind of fun, and I want to help champion that because the pecan doesn't have a voice. You know, somebody's got to speak for the pecan.
Somebody's got to speak for the pecan. While you were talking about that, I see you in a pecan outfit testifying to Congress. You know what I mean? And you could
don't put it past me.
You could become America's nut yourself while you do that.
That's right.
You know,
the first thing we have to do is we're going to have a campaign on the pronunciation of pecan because, as you may know, you go around the country, depending on where you live, you may say pecan, you may say pecan, you may say pecan, you may say pecan. It's got about 5 or 6 variations. So we got to get pecan to be the official pronunciation because, you know, I tell people a pecan's what my grandfather put in the car for a long road trip. That doesn't sound very appealing.
That's what you use when you go across the basin and
that's right.
It's usually a Gatorade bottle or something.
That's right, a pecan. But anyway, that's kind of a little funny segue about getting the pecan as our national nut. But I forgot where we started this little
that's okay
conversation. Mentorship. We were talking about mentorship, and so
we covered that.
Yeah, I just felt like there was never anybody. I mean, my mom, who's still living, who I came to run the company for, she's savvy, and she's given me a lot of great advice over the years. But as a true mentorship, I've never really had that experience, unfortunately. I would have liked it, though.
You've been despite everything you just explained to us, and I'm kind of tired just listening to that because it's a lot
that
you've done. Yeah, but you found time to be connected and involved in many organizations around town that you don't directly benefit from. You give a lot of your time, talent, and treasure to helping other businesses. Let's talk about where that drive comes from and what does that give you personally?
You know, I think it's our responsibility to give back time to our communities when we can. So few of us are asked. You know, it's not like a lot of people are asked. So when you get asked, you have to really consider that. And it's tough because, you know, typically you get asked to do these type of things when you're busy growing a company, you're growing your family, raising your family. So your time is precious because, you know, there's a lot of people. And then, you know, you need some time away. I mean, you need work-life balance. I don't think that's a bullshit term. I think that's a real term. You need time. And when you're in a leadership position, you need time to think. And sometimes that requires you being out of the office. I mean, you just need to take a step back, whether it's in your vehicle and you're taking a long drive, or maybe you want to go spend the weekend doing some duck hunting or something. But you just really need to step back out of the office a little bit and think about things. I don't think we get enough credit for thinking ourselves out of some problems or to some solutions. Fred, go back to the question one more time. We were talking about
what's the drive for you to participate in all these
these
CEO
extra
roundtables and all these things
so
you do?
I love meeting people. I love getting to know my community and the people who are shaping our community. So working on chamber, working on CEO roundtable, I did a leadership Louisiana function last night over at the bank building downtown. I was an alum of that organization 15 years ago, and they're starting their new class this year. Working with LSU Alumni Association, there's a couple of boards I sit on in New Iberia. I sit on the Monkus Park board here in Lafayette. I think it's important. A couple of things. One, I wanted to be around people who are shaping our community. I want to meet these people. I want to know what they're like. I think that there's something to be gained from being in circles with those folks, right? There's something to pick up. Also, maybe a little selfishly, I do know that these people run their organizations, and I do believe that there's opportunities for me to present my company and my products to those folks. That's never hurt, and I've picked up a lot of business that way. And I want to give back. So I think those three things, getting to know the folks that are shaping the community, presenting your own products and services, and then also giving time back. I have a unique product because I can walk into almost any room and almost anyone is a potential client of mine. I don't have an oil and gas company. I don't know if I could ever be a client of Pharma-Safe.
Right.
But I know Pharma-Safe could be a client of mine. And I know that the lawyers and the CPAs and the engineers, they all can be clients of mine. So I'm a little motivated by that. But the older I get, I find I just want to meet some folks, and I find it interesting, time permitting. It's a lot of time. I'm currently on 5 boards, and I need to. And there's 2 other things that are just bubbling up right now that might come up in the next year or 2 that could be cool. But I'm trying to step back a little bit too on that.
Well, the way you've designed your company, the few people in your organization that I've interacted with are extremely professional, extremely competent, and it seems like y'all all very aligned. And once you do that, as a business owner, you have the flexibility to say, you know what, I don't need to be there to manage every piece of this. I got quality people in place. They need my leadership. They need my guidance. But you know what? I have time to do that versus when you're first starting a business, you got to touch everything. You got to be from the dishwasher to the CEO. And I think you've set up a quality organization. One of the other things we haven't talked about yet is this wonderful pie bar you got downtown in New Iberia that we love to sneak over to whenever we can. Your invention of the boudin pecan pie is amazing.
Yeah.
The first few times I got it and told my family that's what we having, it was like, what? Wait, what? What is that? And the first taste is always a little tentative.
Right.
But once you taste the sweet and the savory, it's a delicious repast. It's very filling. You can't eat a huge piece of it. But man, it is such an amazing representation of what we can do with innovation down here.
Going back to these organizations, though, I'll tell you this. It is my responsibility. It's my fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're introducing my company to as many people as possible. So more than anything, from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a branding perspective, getting out there and putting on a suit and going to these organizations is what separated us from my contemporaries. I talked a little bit about how the other folks in the pecan industry haven't really dove into the B2B opportunities. Most of the families that are in the pecan business are generational families, and usually they're rural families because they're living out in the country. They live amongst their pecan trees. They don't really live in big towns or big cities. And so I put on a coat and I go to these things because it means I mean business. It means that I take your business seriously. And at the end of the day, if I'm going to align myself with all these different types of companies and all these different kind of sectors, they need to know that while it's only pecans, it's serious because I've got your relationships in the palm of my hand. And if Pharma-Safe wants to give, 100 gift tins to 100 very important people to them, it's important that you know that Jady's going to take this gifting seriously. Because I really feel like at the end of the day, if you could look at that classic iceberg, the tip of the iceberg that's poking out of the water, I'm a pecan company. But if you look right under the surface of the water, I really am a gifting provider. I'm a gift provider. But the big chunk of what I see, how I look at my own company, is I'm a broker of relationships. So I'm helping Doug maintain and establish new relationships with his vendors, with his customers, with his employees. Those are your 3 constituents. And that relationship is important. I might not be the only thing that you do throughout the 12 months, but I'm one of the things that you do. And I don't want to screw that up, Doug. And I need to instill confidence in you that, look, he means business and he's going to do what he says. And so that is another reason why I associate myself with these groups, because it's my fiduciary responsibility to sell, grow the business so that my 40 to 60 employees have a job. We have our own little economy we've created. I tell this to them all the time. We've created this. Now we got to protect this and build this, so we all can get more money, pay raises and bonuses and everything. And we've done that.
How did the idea for the retail restaurant space come up?
Well, I had always thought that if we could get the right building, it'd be interesting if we could have a walk-in retail experience. And so in New Iberia, there was an old department store that came up and gone out of business, and the building was vacant 5-6 years. And it was on Main Street. And then the mayor had created an historic district, which was a long time coming, but they have finally established a parameter where they said, okay, this is going to be the historic district of New Iberia. And that building was in the historic district, which entitled us to some credits from the state for renovations. So now we had a building that was big. It was in a historic district, and it had some tax credits associated with it. So I went to my family and I said, look, I think this could be a very interesting move for us, and I think we could occupy that building. And oh, by the way, it's on Main Street. Main Street, New Iberia, a lot of people don't know this, is a state highway. So we have a lot of traffic that goes right through downtown. If you know anything about South Louisiana, you know, not a lot of traffic goes through downtown Lafayette. It goes through Evangeline Thruway, and now they're talking about a bypass. Alexandria has a bypass. Abbeville has a bypass. Lake Charles has a bypass. New Iberia doesn't have a bypass. I mean, you can stay on 90 if you want, and a lot of people do, going from New Orleans to Houston or Houston to New Orleans. But if you're just running local, you're coming right through downtown New Iberia. So the visibility was good. And it was a department store that a lot of people knew about and grew up with in the Iberia Parish area because it had been a department store since 1956. And I just thought we could take a little corner out and we put a little restaurant, which I thought New Iberia was in dire need of, and we put a little walk-in retail store. And so the two combined is our brick and mortar experience. And it represents about 6% of our gross revenue. So it's not a big part of our gross revenue, but it's important about our brand. And it's also, in my opinion, a brand extension. It was a chance for people to come into a physical space and understand what kind of brand we had. And we've picked up a lot of business that way. Not only selling, but people come and experience it. Maybe they're traveling through, they're tourists, they go to Tabasco, they come into town, they get a piece of pie, a cup of coffee. They remember this brand. Maybe they go back to where they're coming from, and they may reach out to us to provide them their gift.
I think the impact is exponential.
So we have a restaurant, as you said, the Pie Bar Cafe, 55C Cafe. We primarily do breakfast and lunch, but we have special events there all the time. And then we have this little adjoining gift shop next to it where we sell our pecan products and other Louisiana, things. So it's a nice little gift shop for the locals and some of the tourists that come through, and it's worked out really well. I think it's been good. We built a nice place, and we're really, really, really serious about keeping it clean and presentable and easy to get in and friendly. And we try to tell my staff all the time, look, guys, there's nothing special except our boudin pie that we sell here. So we have to lean into the fact that we're selling an experience.
Right.
Our coffee isn't that special. Our sandwiches aren't that special. Our soup
you
isn't
can get those
special.
anywhere.
Right. But we have to lean in. Our strategy is selling an experience. That's the strategy. Everything else good will happen if we can sell that. So we really take it to heart about keeping it clean and tidy and presentable. That's a real big part of it. And New Iberia's responded. Now, New Iberia is a small town. If that location had been in Lafayette, we'd probably doing triple what we're doing now, maybe quadruple, but we're happy with it.
Well, then you may be overwhelmed with running an extremely robust and successful restaurant type business, and then you run into different problems.
That's true.
So I think it's serving its purpose. I think I have a technical thing. Let me check this.
Sure. But we spent a little time recently talking about what we can do to make that even a better experience. And I was telling my staff, I said, look, we don't need to make it much better than what it already is. We just don't want to let it get worse, right? Or go bad, for example. It's not bad. We don't want to let it go bad. But where we can make the most change in the business is on our online sales, not in our store. And so our focus going forward is we got a good manager there now, and she's got the place kind of held together real good, and I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. So our focus now is on how do we grow the back end of the business that no one ever sees. That's really the engine behind what we do.
one of the things that I noticed in your background when I was taking a deeper dive into it was marching band figurines, which was interesting to me. Let's talk about that.
There's a story, yeah. That's a crazy little company. It's a little toy collectible company that I started back in 2001, I think now. It's been a minute. So I grew up here in Louisiana, and like a lot of Louisiana families, we would spend time going to New Orleans on vacations. And I remember my dad, I have two brothers and a younger sister, but she came around 11 years after I was born. So she wasn't part of the picture of us all going to New Orleans with the three boys. We'd get to New Orleans, my mom and dad, maybe they went out the night before, and my mom would want to sleep in, and my dad would get us boys together, and we'd march down to the French Quarter and go to Cafe Du Monde and get some coffee and beignets, and then he'd walk us through the quarter, and there was a little toy shop there called Le Petit Soldier. It was in the French Quarter for almost 40 years, and it was just filled with toy soldiers, and he'd like to bring us in there. And I remember as a child just being like, I was amazed. All these little toy soldiers, they were so captivating. And the ones that I always gravitated to were the bands. So they have like these 15-piece, 20-piece bands. And they were very expensive because you had to buy the whole set, right? And it was a marching band. And so that kind of stuck in my head. And years later, when I was working for the Chicago Bears, I went into a really upscale toy store in Chicago, and they had some toy soldiers in the back. And I was kind of going down memory lane, and they had a little Navy band. It was like a 6-piece band. And I don't know what it was. It was a light bulb that went off. And I asked the storekeeper, I said, hey, have you ever seen anybody do college marching bands in miniature like this? And he's like, no, I've never seen that before. I said, okay. So not long after that, there used to be a magazine, a monthly magazine it was a Toy Soldier magazine that was distributed throughout the world. It came out of the UK. And I wrote the editor a letter saying, look, I think I want to start a company, and I want to do college marching bands for America, but I need to find a sculptor. Do you know anybody that would freelance sculpt for me? And this is back with a letter. This is one email. He responded. He goes, I have a guy, and he's up in northern England. I said, really? So I contacted the guy, and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. So we did Texas A&M University first because it was kind of an American military band because they knew the Corps of Cadets at A&M. And his first couple samples were just amazing. And I was like, this is it. And so I started this company called The Little Band Man, and we make college marching bands in miniature. And it's 100% British made. They're sculpted in England. They're molded in England. They're painted in England. They're put together, boxed, and shipped to me in the States. And we're up to 14 different schools now. And we have some little subsets that we do. So we do 14 different school bands, but like A&M, I have like 6 or 7 little sets that are offshoots. And it's just been kind of I tell people it's a hobby company of mine, but I'm the only manufacturer of college marching bands in miniature in the whole world. It's crazy.
That's so interesting, man.
Yeah. And we did A&M first, then we did LSU, being an LSU graduate, And look, I was never in a band, never was a musician, but I do know that, again, from my marketing brain, game day at a major college is just not the same without football. And football is just not the same without the pageantry of cheerleaders and mascots and bands, and it all kind of works together, right?
Yeah.
To make the experience what it is. And I don't care if you're an LSU guy or a Notre Dame guy or a USC guy or gal or an Ohio State. We all feel the same about our school. We love it. We love the colors. We love the pageantry. We love the traditions. We love the band. And that's kind of where it came from. And so people ask me, well, who buys these bands? Well, you got people who were in the band. So we've got a band alumni. You have parents of kids who were currently in the band. You've got people who are super fans and they want that man cave to look, And it's a variety of things. I've had actual schools buy my products to give away to donor gifts. I've had people that met in the band and got married.
Yeah.
And they use my bands as cake toppers in their weddings. I've had some crazy stories.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I sell more Ohio State bands than anything else.
Is that a brick and mortar, or it's all online?
No, it's all online. Yeah,
that's cool.
I keep the figurines in my building. I ship them out as I need it to. It's been fun, and I go to England every once in a while to a big toy soldier trade show. There's also one in Chicago every year. I'll go to England and check on my stuff. I went last year and checked on everything, and it was nice. And it's just I really started doing it because I was collecting toy soldiers, and I needed a way to pay for my collecting.
Sure.
My wife at the time was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you're buying these toys?" I said, "First of all, you're a grown man. What are you doing?" There's that. But secondly, I needed a way to pay for it. So I said if I could sell a few, make a little money, I could pay for my own collecting. I don't collect as much anymore as I used to, but I enjoy it. It brings out the child in me. And I think creatives, we always don't want to let go of our childhood too much. It keeps us fresh and gives us a different lens to look at things.
Well, as we continue to peel back the onion that is Jady Regard, let's talk about alligator hunting. That's something that's near and dear to my heart, coming from South Louisiana in Terrebonne Parish. I alligator hunted myself. I actually bought and sold alligators during the heyday when prices were really high. How did you get into the sport alligator hunting for people?
My family, my dad, when he got in the pecan business, when he acquired the pecan orchards that we have in Natchitoches Parish, that's where our name Cane River Pecan Company comes from, the Cane River that runs through Natchitoches Parish. Our orchards are on the banks near Melrose. If you're from that area, you know that area. But he also picked up some other property, and one of it was a recreational piece of property that had some wetlands on it. We had a lake on it. And for a long time, Louisiana alligator hunting was outlawed, and they brought it back, I want to say the 80s, maybe 70s, 80s, something like that. Alligators were really not doing well in the state of Louisiana. They almost decimated everything, and then they took a pause and let the population kind of come back. And now they instituted a new program where it's highly regulated, and it's been hugely successful. There's alligators everywhere, all over the state of Louisiana. And so my dad started doing these alligator hunts. And once again, I was in sports at the time, so I could never come down here. Alligator hunting traditionally was always September. And I was in the hockey business and basketball, and we're always getting our season started during that time. So we're practicing and whatnot. But after he died, it was a man that used to help him. And I called that man up and I said, "Look, I want to continue doing this. I'm back in Louisiana, but I don't know what to do. Can you show me?" He said, "Oh yeah, sure." I called some buddies and I said, "Y'all bring some beer. We're going to go shoot some alligators." And they came, and we only get 10 tags, but we filled them, and we did that for 2 or 3 years and had a good time doing it. And then I got kind of bored. The prices started kind of coming down a little bit. Right. I think we were getting like $20, $22 a foot. Wasn't great. It barely paid for the beer money, but we had a good time. And so I started thinking, I said, man, if I did guided alligator hunts for people who can come out of state and not really so much make the money on the alligator, but make the money on the guided experience, and that might be cool, and that could be a lot more money. So I kind of changed the paradigm, and so we started charging for the hunt. And man, it exponentially changed how much money we were making, which was good because I needed the money to maintain the property that I had. And I started meeting people from all over the country. Like last year, I had people from Philadelphia, D.C., Los Angeles, Denver, Miami. I meet all these people who come to Louisiana, and now I get to share our Louisiana culture with them, which I love. And I mean, these people haven't even seen a cypress tree. I mean, they can't believe trees grow in the water. I mean, you have them from the first second they get there. Right. Last year, we had an influencer from New York that came down and hunted with us and did a big story in his magazine that he writes up in New York, and we got some attraction from that. And it's just been super cool, and I've been doing it for 24 years, and we've had a lot of guests come through, and I'm the chief guide, I'm the chief boat runner, I'm the chief bartender, I'm the chief joke teller, I'm the chief well,
that's fun, though.
It is fun.
That's a great experience, and growing up in the South down here, time in the woods or in the marsh is cathartic, just like you talk about. And I enjoy being out there. I enjoy the hunt, but I really enjoy the camaraderie more. It's about the experience. True. And everybody's, with the popularity of swamp people, everybody's seen it on TV. So you have a built-in audience of a market of people to say, boy, I'd love to do that. And getting them the opportunity to do it in this situation, in a controlled environment with a great atmosphere and people that know what they're doing, is probably a great experience. And they go back telling everybody about it with probably a few pecans in their pocket. And,
we have some pecans out there for sure. But again, I leaned into my B2B sales experience. So we tried to sell these as corporate hunts. So a company can come in, they can bring a couple of their key people, they can bring a couple of their key employee contacts or relationships, vendors, customers, and it's a small setting. You know, we never get bigger than 8 for a weekend, so it's a very small group. It's usually 2 nights at the least, 3 nights at the most. So you're getting people in close quarters. They're getting an opportunity to be with their customers in a really intimate way in South Louisiana, or in Louisiana rather, doing something that's truly unique to Louisiana. And I understand that, right? So I'm leaning into that. Like, we're playing Cajun music, and we're eating crawfish etouffee, and we're frying alligator for snacks. And, you know, we're really leaning into making it a Louisiana experience, and serving beignets for breakfast. And I love that. And I love sharing our culture. I've always done that. If there's one thing I could tell to anybody who's from Louisiana, who's working outside the state, is to fly your Louisiana flag. Meaning, let people know you're from Louisiana, and let them know that we do things differently here. When I worked at the Chicago Bears, we had this beautiful corporate kitchen on the second floor of our facility that looked out over our practice fields. We had 4 practice fields. And so it was an amazing, beautiful site. We're at the end of this road. So there was nobody behind us. It was just woods. So it was really serene back there. And I used to have potential prospects come in, companies like United, Cadillac, Gatorade, you know, Budweiser, Pizza Hut, big national companies. And I would say, look, I'm going to cook breakfast for y'all at the Bears facility. Y'all can watch morning practice. And they were like, oh, great. And we get there, and I'd start making beignets. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, well, I'm from Louisiana. We have beignets. And I remember the first time the team president walked in the kitchen and he saw me cooking beignets. He's like, what are you doing, Rigard? I said, I'm making beignets. Well, who? Well, I got the guys from Budweiser here. Well, why are you doing that? I said, because that's what we do in Louisiana. It makes me different. He's like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
they can't get that anywhere else.
Right. And so when you're out of state and you're from Louisiana, and you're drinking your coffee and you're eating your food and you're telling your Boudreaux jokes and you're listening to your Cajun music, you are going to stand out like no other.
Yeah, an ambassador.
Just embrace it. I love that. And I love the fact that you can go anywhere in this country and just really stand out if you're willing to fly your little Louisiana flag. You know, like, we're in Mardi Gras season now. You know, bring the king cake to the office. Make sure you got beads on people's desks. I mean, to us, it's commonplace, right? But if you're working in Missouri or Philadelphia or Los Angeles or San Diego, that's like, what is that guy up to? He's just being his Louisiana self.
We had some people in here from Pecan. We were in the process of transitioning from ADP to Pecan, and we had a couple of implementers over here the other day, and they mentioned they were from Dallas. They'd never had king cake or whatever. So we got some king cake and a couple of beads. We put it on the table. You could have swear we gave them a trip. They were so excited. They ate the king cake. They brought the beads home to their loved ones. We gave them a couple other little trinkets from different things around here. And all of a sudden, it was they came here to do a job, to train some of our people on Pecan, and they left here with a little bit of an experience because of the way we handle that.
We had a marketing call with a company we do some work with in Kansas. They helped us with a new website this past year, and we had a phone Zoom meeting on January the 6th. Well, if you're from Louisiana, you know January the 6th, that's King's Day. That's the start of the carnival season. And so we were telling them, like, hey, you know, Happy King's Day. And they're like, what are they talking about? And I said, oh, it's the start of the king cake season and the carnival season and Mardi Gras. And they just amazed. I said, you know, for you folks, if you're lucky, you might do something for Mardi Gras Day. Probably not, but might. But us, we have a Mardi Gras season. I mean, this thing is a marathon. This thing goes on 6-7 weeks.
It's brutal, especially if you're in one of those crews. It's just like constant stuff.
And you're coming off of Christmas, so there's no chance to take a breath, man. Yeah, but anyway, I love that about Louisiana.
We're going to a ball this weekend. We're going to Rio ball this weekend. It's just, it snuck right up on us. So
yeah. It's, you know, it's again, Louisiana is such a unique state. I love this. You know, I was telling somebody the other day about the big Washington Mardi Gras. Have you ever been to the Washington Mardi Gras?
No.
You've heard of it, though, obviously, right? It's unbelievable, Doug. I mean, they take over the largest Hilton property in the world for 3 days. It's the single biggest event in any Hilton in the world. And if you were to drop a bomb on that building during that weekend, I think Louisiana would be out of business for a few years. There's that many VIP.
It's well attended.
Oh, it's well attended, 3,000 people every night for 3 nights in a row. And you got so many business leaders and politicians and just policy people there, and it's such an amazing event. And a lot of people have never heard of it before. Of course, DC knows about it, but it's exportation of our culture, and that's a really cool thing that a lot of states don't have. And, some states have some things like Texas might have barbecue, and Maine might have lobsters, and I'm sure there's a few states with a few other things, but nobody's got the amount of stuff that we have in Louisiana. And really, it's South Louisiana. It's us.
That's right.
We're the keepers of the culture, as I like to say.
It gets a little vanilla above I-10.
Sure it does. You know where the Boudin line is.
Yeah.
That's Evangeline Parish. Anything above Evangeline Parish that you don't want to trust any Boudin cracklings up there too much. Rapides, they trying to move in, but they just keep it below the Boudin line. But even when you cross the basin, and it starts to get a little muddy when you get into Beaumont, Lake Charles area. But it's we are the keepers of the culture. That's how I feel about Southwest Louisiana, and it's a pretty cool thing, man.
Yeah, it's a special place. I was born and raised in Houma, Terrebonne Parish, and there's nothing wrong with Houma. There's nothing wrong with Terrebonne Parish. But I moved to Lafayette for work in 2008 or 9. I think it was 2009. And I've been here ever since. And my plan was to work here till I retired and then move back to By the Large, where I was from, and live the rest of my life fishing and enjoying myself. And I've fallen completely head over heels in love with Lafayette as a city. Mm-hmm. There's so many things to do here. The culture's vibrant, music, food, activities. You mentioned Munkus Park. When my family comes from out of town, first place the grandkids want to go is go run on the big hill in Munkus Park.
That's cool.
So we got so many things to do, art, plays, you name it, sports. So I have one toe still in Terrebonne Parish. I got my family home down there that my kids live in, and I love going down there to fish and enjoy ourselves and decompress. Mm-hmm. But as far as places to live, I can't think of any better place. Maybe a place with more seasons, because it's a little warm sometimes. But
like right now,
yeah. But we fall in love with it. So my personal plans have changed because of what Lafayette has given me as a person, and we invite people, friends, relatives to come stay with us, and they get to experience it, and they like, oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Lafayette in South Louisiana is a little deceiving. Of course, it sounds like you're an outdoorsman, and I am too. So we can appreciate the woods, whether you're a deer hunter or you're sockeye fishing or you're alligator hunting or you're duck hunting. We guys like you and I get out and we see that, and there's some gorgeous parts of Louisiana that we get a chance to see. But for those who don't hunt, they look around and we don't really have the physical markers like you might have in big cities, like a big bridge or a skyline. I lived in Breckenridge for 2 years, I mentioned earlier, and of course Breckenridge is beautiful, right? The mountains, the streams, the hills, it's just gorgeous. The wildflowers in the summer, the deep snow in the winter. And as beautiful as Breckenridge is and was, it just didn't have the people. And I remember recruiting coaches to come coach down here when I was running the hockey team. And I was in the car one day when we had a prospect coach come to town, and his wife called. And I could tell she was like, well, what do you think? What's going on down there? Because he had come in for a visit, and they were living like in Phoenix or something. And he was having a hard time saying, well, this is nice or that's nice, because if you ride around, we have some pockets of Acadiana that could look a little better.
That's right.
And when he hung the phone up, his name was Dave. And I said, Dave, it's probably hard to explain to somebody when you've just been here for a few hours about this city. But what you're going to find is you're going to come here and you're going to meet some people. And the people are what you're going to remember. We don't have mountains and bridges and skylines and that kind of stuff in Lafayette, Louisiana. But we have some of the best people who are going to really resonate with you. And you're going to make lifelong friends down here because of this. And it's only until then are you going to realize how special this place is. And I'm a 5-time boomerang baby. I left Louisiana 5 times and came back. And I was recently featured, LED, Louisiana Economic Development, did a huge campaign. They tried to pick somebody from each of the 8 regions of Louisiana who were boomerang people. And I was asked to do it for Acadiana, and I did it. And I just said, I'm not leaving this time. This is it. But you have to leave sometimes to really appreciate this place.
That's correct.
You do. And that's another reason why I want to encourage my kids to take that gap year to get out of Louisiana, because I think they're going to fall in love with Louisiana the minute they leave. But we talk a lot of politicians want to talk about out-migration. It seems to be a fundamental pillar they want to talk about when they're running for office. Well, I don't really have a problem with out-migration because I think they all come back eventually. I really do. I just don't think they find the community that we offer anywhere else. I had some friends of mine that lost a child this past year, and it was devastating. But they really learned how this community stepped up in ways that they probably never imagined they could or would because of their loss. And it was unique to see that. It was just an outpouring of support. And not to say that wouldn't happen in another community, but it's special here. And I've been away a few times to know that it really is special.
Yeah, we didn't even mention the festivals, but that's just icing on the cake.
Oh, yeah, you can go down the list.
There's a festival, there's 100 festivals, and they're all fun, and they're all celebrating everything.
That's right. And we've got some great ones in Lafayette. My favorite is Festival Acadienne. I love the Cajun Culture Festival. And it's got a good vibe. They moved that festival. It used to be in the spring. They moved it to the fall, and it's a lot different now that it's in October. It feels great. But no, we're very blessed to have so many great things to identify with here, whether it's Mardi Gras, whether it's festivals, whether it's crawfish season. I love it, man. Speaking of crawfish, have you had any yet this year?
Not yet.
It's close, man. It's got to be close, right?
They keep saying it's going to be a good season. There was some offered the other day. It hit my Facebook feed that a little place near my house and off of a rod had some, but we didn't partake. We were busy doing other things.
Yeah, but it's close.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready too. I love the fact that we have a season. I go to Houston a lot. And we jokingly say that we send all of our crap crawfish to Houston so they can enjoy it all summer long because we quit eating crawfish like after Mother's Day or something. And I like the fact that we have kind of got a bookend to our seasons. We make it a season. We just don't eat it all the year long unless it's like etouffee or something like that. But yeah, man, I love our culture. My brother lives outside of Philadelphia. And I have to go to a trade show next month, and I'm actually leaving on February the 17th, which is going to be Mardi Gras Day. And I was a little bummed out, but I have to go that day. But my brother is so excited because he's like, oh, well, if you're coming, we're going to make a Mardi Gras party in my neighborhood, in Philadelphia. He's got a flagpole in his front yard, and I sent him a Mardi Gras flag a few years ago. So he flies it out there every year during Mardi Gras. And
exporting the culture.
Yeah, lets everybody know in the neighborhood he's got a king cake going and all that stuff.
Very cool. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to cover this morning?
No, I mean, it's great. I was honored to be asked to be here. I love what I'm doing, peddling pecans and doing my alligator hunting and still keeping up with my little figurines. I write books on the side, too. I've done 7 books.
We forgot that.
Yeah, I've written some books, children's books, but I'm writing my first novel right now. I'm in the process of finishing up with a friend. We co-wrote a novel that's going to be kind of fun. It's going to be about a doctor from Lafayette who develops a test that determines the day you die. And it's called expiration, your expiration date.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Like that.
Yeah. And we weave all this Louisiana stuff in there, like New Orleans and Mardi Gras and just all the things that we love to do is all going to be woven in there. So it's been kind of fun putting this thing together, an oil field and crawfish boils and all kind of fun stuff. So we're working on that. That could be a lot of fun. But I'm in a good place right now. Our company's been having year-over-year growth for about 9 years now. We're slowly introducing ourselves into Texas, which I'm excited about because Texas has a big pecan culture. They have a lot of pecan trees in Texas. There's a lot of growth in that triangle, from Dallas-Fort Worth to San Antonio, Austin, Houston. There's just a huge amount of people moving into that area of Texas. Their economy is doing really, really well. And we're such good neighbors to Texas. I think that we talk about the strong culture of Louisiana. I think Texas has an equally strong culture, and I believe that because we're kind of we're Gulf Coast neighbors. We're neighborly states that have strong cultures, and because of that, we get along better. Like I find that Mississippi, Alabama, what's their culture? I don't really know what it is.
I would agree with that.
And Texas has this strong frontier, Western spirit, ranching culture, and we have this Louisiana French, Spanish, Creole culture, and we're kind of intrigued what they're all about. They're kind of intrigued what we're all about. And it makes for good neighbors. And we're hoping to really have some good inroads into that state and promote some stuff. We have a new pecan flavor we came out with this year called the Texas Mesquite Pecan. And I specifically put Texas on the label because we could have just called it Mesquite Pecans.
Right.
But I wanted Texas to know that we see you, we get you, We
That's
got
a good
something
move.
for you. Yeah, I thought so.
Very cool.
So, and that's more of our creativity getting in the way of things again. But it's been great, man. I'm so glad you did this. This is awesome.
Thank you, Jady.
Yeah, man.
I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for everything you do for the community and sharing your time, talent, and treasure with everybody you come across. And you are welcome to come back anytime.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
so Happy New Year.
This was fun, man.
Yeah, this is really nice, Doug. You did a good job with this.